Thank you very much, and greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. This is C.P. McGregor speaking. Welcome to the La Rosa Hollywood Theater of Stars, radio's greatest daytime dramatic program. Every day, a complete 30-minute drama from Hollywood. Every day, a famous Hollywood star. Today, our stars are Elliott Lewis and Ona Munson in a dramatic play titled Return to Singapore. Act one in just a moment, but first, a word from our announcer, Wendell Nile.
It's at your grocer's now. The great new 1949 Durham wheat harvest is in, and it's the finest ever produced. That means La Rosa brings you the most delicious macaroni, spaghetti, and egg noodles you ever tasted. Because La Rosa's got the cream of the crop. You see, La Rosa is the world's largest user of fine Durham wheat semolina. So it's natural that leading Durham millers offer La Rosa first choice of Super Select #1 cream of the crop semolina. Prove it to yourself. Tonight, make the La Rosa three-way quality test. See, taste, compare. See La Rosa's natural golden color, the natural sunshine of the world's finest semolina. Taste La Rosa's luscious flavor, richer, smoother, more delicious, with that just right, firm yet tender texture. Compare La Rosa with any other macaroni, spaghetti, or egg noodles you ever tasted. Once you try La Rosa, you'll never serve anything but La Rosa. Now, once again, our producer.
And now, here is Act One of Return to Singapore, co-starring Elliott Lewis and Ona Munson. In the failing light of tired eyes, when the brass and copper sunset probes the skies, when deepening shadows steal away the light and hide from view each earthly sight, this is the time of even load. And thus, as the long, slender fingers of dusk gently push their way through the windows of Dr. Harcourt's room of examination, they touch and caress the face of a girl. They touch her eyelids with darkening shadows, offsetting the slow, steady fires that burn lambent within the twin pools of luminescence that are her eyes. She gazes steadily at the doctor, waiting for him to speak.
Well, Dr. Harcourt, I know that awe of yours can only mean one of two things. Either it's good news or bad news.
It's bad news, Ruth.
Oh.
Ruth, I could lie about it. I could stave off the facts for 6 or 8 months, and I think I have 3 or 4 stock jokes I could tell. And we'd both laugh until the next time I saw you. But I'd be cheating you.
Please go on, Dr. Harcourt.
Ruth, you'll be blind in a year.
Totally?
Yes.
You're absolutely positive, Doctor.
Ruth, I'd give 10 years of my life if I could say I'm not positive. I only think so, but I can't. I'm terribly sorry I can't.
Oh, no, please don't be sorry for me, Dr. Harcourt. You've done everything humanly possible. I remember an old professor of mine in college, Professor Hender of Ethics and Logic. He said, truth is inevitable, and there can be no compromise between the truth and the false. That's one of the things he taught, Dr. Harcourt.
Yes. So you'll have plans to make, certain preparations, Ruth?
Oh, yes. I have a great many plans to make. I have a great many things to see. You know, Doctor, it's so strange how our ambitions can lie dormant in our minds, like unused plans in an architect's desk. Unused until it's nearly too late.
What do you mean, my dear?
Well, all my life I've loved the ocean, the sea. I've had visions ever since I was a little girl of seeing all the strange places of the world. And I've always thought to myself that someday I'd go aboard some rusty old tramp steamer, and I'd sail, and I'd look until there was nothing more to see.
Yes.
And now, strangely enough, that ambition has got to be realized. In fact, it's being forced on me. Oh, Dr. Harcourt, there's so much to be seen before the light fails. And I have only a year. I have only the sunset for my torch of discovery. the even load.
And so Ruth followed the path which leads down to the sea and ships, to the musty, rotting wharves where stand the great strands of hemp, holding close red, rusted traders of another and stranger world. Ships of wanderers and wandering ships. To the wharves of these vagabonds of the sea goes Ruth in the failing light of an afternoon.
But you see, I'm not very particular about accommodations. If you only have a small cabin, I won't be a bother. Really, I won't.
Well, Mum, we'll be glad to accept you on board the Glencairn as a passenger. But we must have the assurance that we'll not have to put about in case you're getting dissatisfied with conditions.
Oh, no.
You see, Mum, the Glencairn is no passenger boat to begin. She's a freighter and a tramp bound for the South Seas carrying lumber, machinery, and lime. And she'll no be a grand ship.
But you're listed as having 2 staterooms for passengers.
Yeah, we are that, miss. But the staterooms are not the ticket for a fine lady like yourself.
Oh, won't you take my word for it that I'll be no bother to you? I'll just be an ordinary passenger like anyone else.
Well, very well, Mum. But it was my duty to warn you first. And the other passenger will be a man. And there'll be no other women on board.
Well, please understand that this trip is not for company. It's because I don't want company that I'm going. I haven't time for company. I have much too much to see.
Well, all right, miss, as you say. You'll have to get your luggage on tonight. She'll be sailing on the flood tide.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening.
Rather a strange sensation, isn't it? Knowing the land is falling away, not seeing.
What? Oh, yes, of course.
I didn't mean to interrupt your thoughts. It was just an observation. I hope you don't mind.
Of course not. I guess I was thinking the same thing. Are you the other passenger on board?
Yes. My name is Paul Phillips. Yours is Ruth Comstock, isn't it? I saw it listed on the sailing articles.
Yes, that's right.
Rather unique, the company putting us on the sailing articles like we were so much cargo. Naturally, an old tub like this can't very well carry a purser.
I beg your pardon, but the old man, I mean the captain, he says if you'd like to come to his cabin, he'll have the steward fetch a bottle or something. Or a pot of tea if you prefer.
Well, personally, I don't think I'd care for a thing just now. I'd like to stay out here on deck for a little longer.
Right, you are, miss. How about you, sir?
I think I'd prefer staying out here, too. Will you give the captain our thanks and hopes he'll extend the rain check?
Very well, sir. And I'm sure he'll understand. As a matter of fact, I likes to spend the first hour or 2 on deck when we sails, but I got so blinking much to do, I don't have the time, I don't. Well, good night, miss. Good night, sir. And if you'd like a little bit of something later, I'll be right happy to oblige.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Not at all. Good night, sir.
Good night.
Well, at least the captain's manners aren't as rusty as his ship. And I suppose we are a bit landlubberish, standing out here on deck, looking at something we can't even see.
I believe there's a great deal to see, Mr. Phillips.
Inasmuch as we're both listed as cargo, shall we dispense with formalities and last names?
I don't mind. I suppose names are like shipping tags, so long as they identify us.
Get us where we're going.
Yes.
Incidentally, I wonder where we are going.
Why do you say that?
Well, perhaps I should have used the personal pronoun I. But whenever a person says goodbye to the land from an old tramp like this, he usually hasn't much of a destination.
Well, doesn't it rather depend on what meaning one gives to the word destination?
Yes, I dare say you're right. I hadn't quite thought of it that way. Destination usually means the end of a journey, but I guess it could mean the beginning, couldn't it?
Yes, I think it could.
You mentioned something a moment ago. You said there was a great deal to see out there in the mist. What did you mean? If you don't mind my asking.
Oh, I don't know exactly. I guess seeing depends on what one's looking for. I guess if a person is able to see the thing they want to see in the blackness and mist of a night on the ocean, they could hardly explain those things to someone else. Well, now, if you'll excuse me, Mr. Phillips, I don't mean to be rude, but I'd like to be alone for a little while.
And so, into the night and the mist, the Glencairn, like a tangible shadow, moves on a roadway of unutterable waste, making her course through the darkness only by the will of her master, tracing her path by the flickering needle, sensitized to a northern pole by a mysterious and unbreakable law of the universe. As on the night of departure, so on this following day at sea, Ruth stands at the rail, her eyes gazing out toward that faint curving line of the horizon that marks the brim of the world, the end and yet the beginning.
Good morning, Miss Comstock.
Oh, good morning, Captain.
It is that. The weather holding as clear as the ring of a bell and twice as beautiful. I hope you rested well last night, Miss Comstock.
Yes, quite well, thank you.
Most folks have quite a go of it the first night out, getting used to the swell and the sound. I haven't seen Mr. Phillips up yet this morning. I hope he's not finding the excitement of leaving too much for him, poor lad.
Oh, what do you mean by that, Captain?
It's a shame it is, Miss Comstock. And a fine boy like Paul Phillips has to have his life doled out to him like rations on a hunger ship. I've given the poor lad only a year to live.
Only a year?
Aye, something to do with his heart. He's the son of an old friend of mine, that's why he's on board. So I can be looking after him a bit. And he's getting some salt air in his lungs and a sizable portion of the sun.
Does Mr. Phillips, I mean, does he know that he only has a year to live?
Aye. When a man's time is short, 'tis always best that he knows when it's up.
Yes, I suppose it is.
I sometimes think it's like this old boat under her feet. She has no straight line to follow. She lives from one day to the next, not knowing where she's going or when. And I don't think she even cares anymore.
You speak of the Glencairn as if she were alive, Captain.
Aye, and that she is. Poking her snub nose into the strange ways of life. Seeing what there is to see. Taking the storms with the calms and waiting for the day when she'll be nothing but rusty scrap. Or down in the bottom of the ocean, in the dark. That's the way of ships, Miss Comstock. And that's the way of life. Seeing what there is to see. Living what there is to live and being ready for the end.
Curtain falls on Act One of Return to Singapore, starring Ona Munson and Elliot Lewis. Our talented stars and our distinguished cast of La Rosa radio players return shortly for Act Two of Return to Singapore.
Say, CP, that's like the title of my new play called Return for More.
I see. I'll bet the stars are La Rosa macaroni, spaghetti, and egg noodles.
Absolutely right, because everybody returns for more and more when you serve a luscious La Rosa dish. For instance, ladies, tonight treat your family to braised pork chops a la Rosa. It's a dish fit for a king, combining La Rosa spaghetti with pork chops and a few other simple ingredients. Yes, every mouthful tastes like more. For the detailed recipe and 100 other wonderful La Rosa treats, consult your La Rosa cookbook. Or if you've not gotten yours yet, send for your big 64-page recipe book today. It's free. Write La Rosa, that's L-A, capital R-O-S-A, care of this station. Now prove La Rosa's superiority yourself. See, taste, compare. See La Rosa's natural golden color, the pure sunshine tone of the world's finest semolina. Taste that luscious La Rosa flavor, richer, smoother, more delicious, made in the unhurried old world way for that just right, firm yet tender texture. Compare La Rosa with any other macaroni, spaghetti, or egg noodles you ever tasted. Once you try La Rosa, you'll never serve anything but La Rosa. That's the reason it's America's largest selling brand. Now here's C.P. McGregor.
And now, Act Two of our play, Return to Singapore, co-starring Ona Munson and Elliot Lewis. The great golden disk of the tropic moon has waned twice since the black, snub-nosed prow of the Glencairn nosed her vagabond way out of the Golden Gate and followed the sea roads that lead down to the Southern Cross. and thence to the necklace of coral that adorn the broad bosom of the Pacific, Lady of Peace. Hawaii, Sumatra, Fiji, the Carolines, Bali, the Malayas, and Singapore. Singapore, the clasp of the southern strand. And there in the famed Raffles Hotel at a table of bamboo sit Ruth Comstock and Paul Phillips, two people apart and yet a part of this crucible of humanity, which is Singapore.
Paul, what did you say these drinks are called?
Samsumaran. Do you like it, Ruth?
Delightful. Well, what does it mean, Samsumaran?
It's a Balinese word. It means wine of heaven. They have a quaint belief that if one drinks it often enough, he's practically guaranteed a choice acreage in the celestial sphere.
Well, that's certainly a new idea on religion, to drink your way into paradise.
A lot of the boys back home on Skid Row use the same idea. Only instead of wine, they use canned heat.
Well, they must be in an awful hurry, don't you think?
Now, as far as that goes, aren't we all? After all, the promised land, streets of gold, no hate, no fear, no pain, no death. Never any darkness, just one continuous blaze of perfect light. Sounds rather ideal, doesn't it?
Yes, doesn't it? But I don't think I'd care to drink myself into it. Would you, Paul?
Not on canned heat.
And maybe on Samsumaran?
Well, if the facts be completely known, Ruth, maybe I'm enjoying a little bit of heaven now.
What do you mean, Paul?
Oh, maybe it's the dim lights or that dress you're wearing. It could just possibly be you that gives you that angelic look. I've been told that wherever you find angels, there also do you find heaven.
Heaven in Singapore?
No, I don't think so, Ruth.
Why?
Well, if you don't mind my slushing over a bit, and if you won't blame it on the Samsumaran, I'll tell you that the last 8 weeks have been heaven.
Paul.
Ruth.
Yes?
I don't know what special miracle it was that brought you down to the wharves in San Francisco that night 8 weeks ago. Brought you on board that old tramp of a Glencairn. But it must have been a special dispensation of some sort.
I don't think it was a miracle, Paul.
It must have been because people like you just don't go sailing on boats that have their bilge plates rusted out. They just don't become the only fellow passenger of, well, another tramp like myself.
Don't they?
No. And that's what makes me so sure that, well, that you're an angel. And any moment you'll go, poof. And there won't be any angel anymore.
Well, I'm afraid there isn't much... Paul. Paul.
Ruth, what's the matter?
Paul, what's happened to the lights?
Lights?
Yes. Why have they gone out?
The lights haven't gone out, Ruth. Ruth, look at me.
No, it's nothing. It's just... It'll pass over.
Look at me. Can you see me?
Yes, of course I can. Wasn't that funny? I guess I must have had a little dizzy spell.
Don't lie to me, darling. You don't see me. You're not even looking at me.
Please, Paul.
Something's wrong with your eyes. We'd better get out of here and find a doctor. Whatever it is, it might be serious. Look, take my arm and...
No, Paul, please don't. Just let me sit here for a moment. It'll go away. It always has before.
It always... You mean this has happened before and you have... Look, you sit here for a moment and I'll go see about getting a doctor. There's probably an eye specialist.
An eye specialist couldn't do anything, Paul.
What do you mean?
Please.
Look, Ruth, I want to know something about this.
There isn't much to know, Paul, except that I'm going blind and there's nothing anyone can do about it.
Ruth.
These spells will keep coming more frequently. And then...
That's why you came on board the Glencairn that night.
Yes. I wanted so much to see the places that I've always dreamed about. The out-of-the-way places we've been. To see them and remember them.
Ruth, my darling.
Oh, no, don't. Don't feel sorry for me.
When?
They told me a year from when we started.
A year?
Look, Paul, I'm perfectly all right now. It's gone away. Let's just forget about it and have our fun and see the things we want to see. Let's live each moment for what it's worth.
Ruth, dearest, wait a minute. We can't give up. Neither you nor I.
But, Paul...
No, there's got to be a way out for both of us. You see, they've condemned me, too. They've given me just a year to live. Like a fool, I believed them. I've just been traveling around waiting to die. The same as you've been waiting to go blind. Ruth, darling, we're not going to believe them. They haven't always been right. Maybe this time they're wrong about both of us. Maybe they found something new. Darling, we'll fight it. We won't let them lick us. And so help us God, we'll both be back in a year to drink a toast in Samsumran. To a new and very special brand of heaven we've just discovered. Toast, Ruth.
Toast, Paul.
And thus the soft light of a candlelit room saw the beginning of new hope, new faith, and new courage. Again, the Glencairn returned to her home port of San Francisco, and two lives from the roads of destiny have come home. It was several days later that Ruth again spoke to Paul of the failing light.
Paul, I've seen Dr. Henson.
What did he say?
There's a chance. A new type of operation, but...
Yes?
He said it'd be 1,000 to 1 chance. But I'd either have my sight or nothing.
What do you mean by nothing, Ruth?
Nothing.
Well, then you can't take that chance, Ruth. It's not even a gambling chance.
I want to take it, Paul. You yourself said that we can't let them lick us, that we'd fight them back, and both return to Singapore and drink another toast to our own special brand of heaven. And we will, Paul.
And thus again in the even load of twilight, as the feathers of dusk, fan-like, hide the brilliance of day, the scene shifts to a hospital corridor, redolent of iodoform, where a moon-faced clock bites off time in rounded nibbles, and where Paul walks alone, waiting for the verdict from beyond those white, gleaming doors.
Dr. Regent.
Yes?
It's all over. The operation is finished.
Yes, Mr. Phillips. It's all over.
And how is she? Ruth. The operation was a success.
No.
No?
I'm sorry, son.
Sorry. Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Regent.
Once more, the rusty and unkept tramp of the seven seas, the Glencairn, bluntly probes the enshrouding mist of the Golden Gate and turns her head towards the long, rolling swells of the open sea, sets her course again to the forgotten places of the world. And then, midway between the atolls and the Malaysians, the bridge telegraph rings out the order to stop engines. And on the starboard side, the ship's company stand about the body of Paul Phillips, their heads bared to the driving spray as the captain intones the service.
And so in reverence do we commit this man's soul to Almighty God, and his body to the deep. For as the Lord giveth, so the Lord taketh away. Amen. Carry on, mister.
Bartender?
Yes, sir.
We'll have 2 of those Samsumran.
Right you are, sir. Here you are, sir.
Well, Ruth, to you
And to you, Paul.
and to our own special brand of heaven. Toast.
Toast.
I say, look here now, what... Well, what do you know? It's happened again.
What's the matter, Peavy?
Well, I don't know. The same thing has happened for the last 3 years.
What?
A lady and gentleman comes up to the bar. He orders a couple of Samsu Moran. That's a special drink we got here. They call it Wine of Heaven. So I serve it up. And I turn me back to wait on another customer, and the first thing I know, crash goes the glasses. And when I goes to take a look, the lady and the gentleman have disappeared. And what I want to know is, who's going to pay for the drinks and the busted glasses? That's what I want to find out.
And so the curtain falls on Act 2 of Return to Singapore, starring Elliot Lewis and Ona Munson. I'll be back in a moment, but first, here's Wendell Niles for La Rosa.
See, taste, compare. Prove to yourself the superiority of La Rosa macaroni, spaghetti, egg noodles. Tonight, make the three-way La Rosa quality test. See La Rosa's natural golden color, the pure sunshine color of the world's finest semolina, the cream of this year's great durum wheat harvest. Taste that luscious La Rosa flavor, richer, smoother, more delicious. Taste that firm yet tender texture. Compare La Rosa with any other macaroni, spaghetti, or egg noodles you ever tasted. Once you try La Rosa, you'll never serve anything but La Rosa. Look for the big red rose on every package. Get La Rosa, America's largest selling brand. For real economy, remember it's a full pound. Now, once again at the microphone, our producer.
Well, Ona and Elliot, it appears that we are starting off the week with a long play, so we must forego the pleasure of our little backstage chat. Before you leave, however, I want to remind you all to tune us in tomorrow for a comedy romance starring Barbara Britton entitled Happy Go Unlucky. This is the story of a man and a woman, just two casual shipboard acquaintances who parlay $10 into $67,000 with a fantastic string of lucky breaks. So tune us in tomorrow for a happy 30 minutes in the La Rosa Hollywood Theater of Stars. Till then, thanks for listening, and cheerio from Hollywood.